Mr. Brad Reimer. How are you?
Good.
Thanks for coming, man. I mean, I know being a farmer in what you do, there's always something to do. So thanks for taking the time to come over and hang out and shoot the shit and talk about your farming, your farming business and your family business and stuff like that. I'm kind of looking forward to talking about some of the stuff that I don't know a lot about. So I'm kind of looking forward to this one.
Good.
So let's just get a little background on you and your family. Obviously, for those that don't know, your family was in the dairy business forever.
Yeah, basically ever. That's what I grew up milking cows. Obviously started out rolling a bale once you could roll a hay bale around and then feeding calves. And I think my dad milked cows for, I believe, just over 50 years. So basically his whole life too. And that's how I grew up.
How many cows did you guys end up milking?
We usually milked right around 80.
80. And that was a stanchion barn?
Yep, stanchion barn, 2 groups through the barn. And
so it was a 40 stall barn basically?
Yep.
So you'd milk 40 cows, ship them out, bring the next 40 in, and start over.
Yep. And then even some of the time, then we'd have a third group and sometimes in the summer we'd have another 20 cows or something occasionally. But yeah, a lot of moving them in and out.
It's definitely easier in the summertime doing that than it is in the wintertime. That totally freaking sucks.
Yeah. So you don't usually like to have to open the barn doors too much when it was 0 degrees and windy.
Yeah, you don't need pipes freezing and all that kind of crap that goes on in the dairy business, because that's just when bad days tend to show up.
Mm-hmm. And I luckily didn't get super involved in those bad days some of the time because, we quit milking cows basically when I got out of high school. So I was at least still going to school all the time when everything went wrong.
Yes. Thank you, school, right? No.
Yeah.
You guys quit milking cows
2007.
And then you guys transitioned over to goats.
Yep.
So talk to me about that process. Like, obviously you're still milking, right? It's still 2 times a day, still morning and night. Mm-hmm. What was the thought process on that? Like, because cows are too big, they're too much of a pain in the butt. Is the goat milk market better? Like, what was the thought process going through?
Well, so the thought process, a lot of it was, so when we milked cows, it was my dad and a couple uncles, my grandpa. There was, I guess, 4 families essentially. And there wasn't really, with 80 cows, well, everybody told them that you can't milk 80 cows and support 4 families. We always did. But I was getting out of high school. I wanted to farm. So my dad thought, hey, we don't really have room on the cow dairy. Maybe we should. He was, like I said, he milked for 50 years. He was kind of tired of bending over milking cows. So thought we started doing a little research and thought maybe we should switch to goats. And I thought, sounds good to me, because I knew there wasn't anywhere else for me to go. So I thought, we kind of agreed that it seemed like might be a good idea. Let's dig into it a little more. And we always had enough feed for the cows for like a full year. So we were able to decide we're going to quit milking cows and still milk cows for a year just to use up all the feed. So we essentially also had a year to figure out what we're going to do when the cows are gone.
How you're going to handle this goat situation.
Mm-hmm.
So you're continuing to milk cows, and then you think, okay, we're going to move forward with this. We're going to do this thing.
Yep.
So at that point in time, is that when you started laying out, like, we're going to build this goat parlor then?
Yep.
At that point?
Basically, yeah. So at the time, so back in 2007, there was not, like, even now, I think you could probably, like, Kyle, you could say, hey, I want to milk goats out here in my shed. You could probably do that if you wanted to. At that time in 2007, there was only one place that we could send our milk if we were going to milk goats, and they didn't want any more milk. So the only option we had if we were going to ship milk to them was to buy a herd of goats that was already shipping to them. So, like, if basically, if I wanted to retire, you could buy my goats. You couldn't buy anything else. Your only option was to buy something that they were already buying.
So that market was flooded already, basically.
Basically, not really flooded. It just was they didn't want any more milk, so they weren't going to put anybody new on unless they took over for somebody quitting. And so, luckily, we were able to find a lady that was wanting to retire, and so then they told us, yeah, if you want to buy her goats, we'll go ahead and do that. She wasn't trying to retire like tomorrow, so it worked out. We were able to build everything, and I think we started building, I want to say February or March of 2007, built the whole milk house, parlor, everything, as we're still milking cows and sort of, because we're getting rid of some heifers and stuff and making room, and then I think we started in September actually milking.
The goats.
You're
talking.
Yep.
Yeah. Did you guys go around to different parlors and look at parlors for the goats and realize, hey, we like this, we don't like this, this is what we're going to change, this is what we're going to do different?
Yep. We did and probably more my mom and dad than anything. Like we had one neighbor that milked goats, so we studied him out a lot. Like we were over, he was probably getting pretty sick of us. and we ended up.
Oh, damn it, Brad's here again.
Yeah, we
honey, shut the lights off.
We spent a lot of time over there, and we ended up modeling kind of our whole parlor and everything very similar to his, and it all turned out really good. It still works perfect.
How big of a parlor is it?
So like how many does it hold?
Yeah.
It's a double 12, so 24 goats, milk 12 at a time.
And for those that don't know, goat parlors are pretty cool because the way you guys have it set up is it's all concrete and it's chest high,
Yeah,
or
like,
give or take.
I think it's like 33 inches.
So the goats
like
are
a countertop.
Yeah,
basically.
they're right here in your face. So there's not a whole lot of bending over involved when you need to milk a goat.
Not at all. They come up 3 steps, and like I said, it's basically like a countertop height, and they're standing right there in front of you. Every now and then they jump off, but most of the time they do really good.
Every now and then they jump. Would a goat not jump off? No. Yeah, they absolutely would. Mm-hmm. They absolutely would. How many milkers do you have then?
So we have 12.
12.
Yep. So we can milk when we run 12 in on one side of the parlor. We can milk those and bring 12 in on the other side
and switch them.
Switch sides. Those guys can go. First 12 can go out. Bring 12 more in, and you can do roughly 100 an hour that way.
Wow. So how many are you guys milking today?
I should know that. Right around 250.
So, okay. So it takes two and a half hours to milk then, is what you're telling me, morning and night.
It's not that I don't know roughly how many we milk. I just don't know exactly.
No, yeah, I don't need the exact number.
I forgot to count them this morning.
Or tonight, for that matter. Yeah. That's pretty interesting. What's some of the things that, when you first got the goats, you got the parlor set up, it's ready to rock and roll for you, what are some of the things you didn't think about that became apparent that you're like, uh-oh, well, we didn't do this, we forgot to do that?
I think we got basically everything, all the major stuff we had kind of figured out. A lot of that stemmed from a goat will get their head stuck anywhere. And so you think, okay, yeah, this will be fine. No, they'll still, like, if they can get stuck somewhere, they will. And you can think you have it perfect, and you'll find a half a dozen other places. And luckily, like usually, hopefully, you'll catch it pretty quick. Because they they can.
They like to explore.
Yeah, between just chewing on a gate hook and getting it stuck in their mouth. It's kind of stupid things like that. A lot of the biggest issues we had when we first started was the herd that we had to buy were from a completely different style parlor than what ours was. So theirs was only like, they had platforms very similar to ours, but they were like a foot off the ground. And they didn't have to come up on steps. They just like come in the side door, the same door that you walked in, and they'd all jump up there. So the first thing you brought them home, and they were just like, nope, we're not going in there. So we had to basically push each one in individually, drag them down, lock them in one at a time, and then we got the first 24 goats in the parlor, and then we were going to turn them out and run them out the exit door. So we opened the stanchions, and they all turned around and jumped off because that's the way the parlor they came from. They just jump back off and run out the same door they came in. So yeah, that
some training. Some training was involved.
I think it was 2 weeks to the day, I believe, when the first goat came in by herself. Just one. And I think it was a good month before it started going mildly smooth. And luckily at that time we were only milking, I think, 100. So it
still took you 2.5 hours to milk 100.
Pretty much.
Just because the training process was a little bit different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a learning curve, that's for sure.
What's the difference in feed? So, like, obviously dairy cows, you're feeding silage and corn and hay and all that kind of stuff. So when you move over to goats, talk to me the difference on some of that.
So you can basically feed the same thing if you want to. The biggest problem we ran into where we couldn't feed the same thing was when our only silo was an 18-foot diameter silo. We estimated we would need probably 600 goats to feed enough out to keep that fresh. I'm not going to have 600 goats, so that's not an option. So we couldn't really feed silage because we couldn't keep it fresh. The only other thing really different than that is, like, with the cows, we always fed ground ear corn. Well, any kind of ground corn has a lot of fines in it, and the goats do not like fines. Okay. Not that they don't like it, they just won't eat it. And I mean, they probably would eat it if they were starving, but a starving goat isn't going to milk.
Yeah, exactly.
So we found with the feed, you had to, like, even if you get, because for a while we got just a complete pellet for them, but pellets come with fines in it too. And then you're shoveling all that out of the feeder because they won't eat it. And the other biggest goofy thing, you feed them hay, just whether it be, when we first started, it was just dry hay, right? They eat every stem and none of the alfalfa leaves.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Fines.
The alfalfa leaves were too fine for them?
Well, they like the stems. It was more fun. They could play with them and chew on them, and then you'd get to the feeder, and the whole bottom of the feeder would be full of leaves, and they'd look at them and go, "Nah,
I'm good."
So it's like, well, that's all the good part of the hay,
alfalfa.
Right?
Like that's how you produce milk, right there.
Yeah.
That what you're not eating.
So that was when you're going down a feed bunk, just shoveling perfectly good hay leaves out. That's extremely depressing.
Yeah,
especially
it hurts
now.
the heart.
Like now, I'm used to it, but for a long time, I was like, this is just dumb. Why are we doing this?
Damn you goats, eat the good stuff.
That's actually why we switched to, instead of feeding them dry hay, we switched to baleage because the leaves stick to it better. They actually end up eating more of them that way.
That makes a lot of sense.
And I'm sure the same, like I'd said with the grain, if you waited long enough, they'll eat it. But that doesn't work really well for milking.
It doesn't. And we'll get to the baleage stuff here in a little while. But yeah, I just was curious if you were still feeding corn to the goats and things like that compared to the dairy cows.
Yeah, so what we ended up feeding now is basically, most people look at it and think it's a regular, like a sweet calf feed, essentially, is what we feed them for grain. And the rest is all hay. Mm-hmm. So a good dairy cow will give out 100 pounds of milk a day. What does a good milking goat give out a day? 10 to 12.
10 to 12.
Basically, and that's when we started, basically everybody told us you can roughly figure a goat is a tenth of a cow. And that's not completely accurate, but it works out. If you
Gives you the idea.
Yeah, if you figure they eat a tenth as much, they poop a tenth as much, they milk about a tenth as much, and it's not terribly far off.
It gets you in the ballpark.
Yeah, yep.
It gets you in the ballpark.
Average on a goat, the average is 6 to 7 pounds. I think that's like the state of Wisconsin average is somewhere right in there.
How are your goats doing?
Right in there.
You're in that same
we're right
range?
about that 7, I think.
Do you does your milk get picked up every day? Every other day?
Twice a week.
Twice a week.
Yep. So when we first started, it was every 4 days, which was kind of a pain to keep track of because every 4 days you're rotating. So, it's Monday, then Thursday, then Sunday, then, it's never the same day. So now they finally switched. It's just Monday and Thursday. So we'll get
simple.
3-day pickup and a 4-day pickup.
And your bulk tank is obviously big enough to handle that milk to keep it in there. And
sometimes. Every now and then, I could use a bigger one.
I'm sure you can find them.
Yeah, then you have to want to put it in. Though.
Yeah, that becomes a whole nother
We
ball
did that.
game.
We did that once. Once is enough.
Do they still give out like premiums and stuff for milk for like high butterfat count?
Yep, it's all the same. Yep, your base price is on just your milk, and then if you have a low cell count or low plate count, high butterfat, protein, all that works out basically the same as far as the premium is the same as regular cow milk. The only difference is the base price. So on cow milk that varies a lot. Ours stays the same.
I was just gonna bring that up a little bit. I'm glad you did because, excuse me, cow milk varies every month. Mm-hmm. I believe it's every month. It can be up one month and it can be down the next month. Goat's milk is not that same way.
No, not at all. It's not traded. So all our milk goes to a cheese plant. I sell to the cheese plant just like if I was selling it to you. If you said, hey, I'll buy all your milk and give you, this is what we'll pay you for each month for the whole year, and that's basically the deal we have.
So you get the same price all year long?
No. We get...
The same base price?
No.
Okay.
There's a winter price and a summer price for the base price because their goats milk more in the summer, less in the winter, so they'll pay a little more in the winter. But we know a year ahead of time, this is what we're paying every month. Yep.
Gotcha.
So it only varies, I think, from March to I think it's March through September is the summer price, and then October through February is the winter price.
Yeah,
which is not a lot of difference.
I'm sure not, but it's going to vary because, like you said, you're giving less milk at that point. Mm-hmm. Do the premiums change?
No, they stay the same all year.
They stay the same all year too.
It's just however many cents if you're a tenth over. Like your butterfat and protein content on goat milk is almost identical to cows. You got, I think, anything above 3 protein or 2.8 on protein, you get a premium, and anything above what do they go off of? 3.8, I think. On
that's a percent, right?
Percent, yeah.
Percent.
So 3.8. So if we get 4% butterfat versus if they set the line at 3.8. If we're anything above that per tenth of a percent, they give us a premium. Or
gotcha.
Below it, they also give us a deduction. So.
Yes, getting the best of both worlds. Mm-hmm. They have to. I mean, I get it. They gotta watch themselves too.
Well, and all our milk goes for cheese, so butterfat and protein are super important.
Butterfat's huge for cheese.
Yeah,
absolutely, it's huge. And are you still going to the same place that you were when you started in 2007?
Yep, same company, yep.
Still taking it to the same company?
Yep, Coblin, or the cheese plant is Coblin Cheese. It's owned by a French company.
Cool.
So,
have you tried it?
Yeah.
You like it?
It's all right. There's a lot of goat cheeses that are, I don't know, I'm not the huge, I like, cheddar.
American. American, baby.
Yeah, some of the goat cheeses are good. Some of them are not as good.
I've had a few different goat cheeses in my life, and I got to tell you, it's not really my favorite thing to eat.
Taste.
Yeah, I mean, it's not bad. It's just like cheddar or American or this. The cheddar or the American. Yeah. The whatever else is out there. Yeah. I'm just not a huge fan of it. Now, I'm sure, like, if you put it in some type of recipe, it's probably phenomenal. I can see that.
I've never found the recipe either, though.
I don't think I've ever really tried it. Maybe I should do that one day.
Yeah.
Figure out something to smoke in the smoker and go find me some goat cheese.
Stuff it with cheese, yeah.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have to do that sometime. Yeah, I gotta support the goat farmers too.
You can buy our goat cheese at Aldi.
At Aldi? No kidding.
Yep. So right now, all of our milk, as far as I know, they're supposed to be coming out with something new. All of ours gets made into the crumbled, like if you ever seen the containers of like crumbled cheese, people put it on salads and stuff like that a lot. Mm-hmm. Pretty sure that's all that gets made out of ours right now.
So 100% of your milk goes to crumbled cheese. Yep. All right. Hey, whatever. Pays bills.
Yeah.
And
as long as they come pick it up and send me a check, I'm happy.
Do you like working with goats because of their size over cows?
Yeah. The size is one thing. They have a lot more personality than most cows also, which is kind of nice. Cows seem, it's not been that long since we had cows, but they seem a little more laid back, easygoing, and bored.
Some of them.
Some of them, yeah, I know
some
it varies.
Some are pretty high strung.
Goats they have a lot more personality than a cow does, and that's always fun too. But yeah, I mean, if you need to move a goat, you just pick it up and move it.
Yeah, that's always been my thing about people that switch over to goats, and I'm like, they probably switched over because if you want to move a goat, you move a goat. Yep. If you want to move a cow and that cow don't want to move, you're not moving it. No, I don't care how hard you try.
It can be a little more tricky.
Yeah, they can be real stubborn too. God, I remember milking when I was in high school for the local dairy farmer down there, and they had one cow, and she was a wrecking ball, man. Whoa. Yeah. She was high strung. She wouldn't let you touch her anywhere, and man, legs were flying. Let me tell you.
We had one or two like that.
She didn't last long. She didn't last long before the boss was like, "Okay."
Those are the kind that all they have
bye.
To do is look at you funny, and they get to go on the trailer.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And then they had one where they ran out of stalls in the barn, so they just literally put a halter on this cow and tied her up.
She'd just stand there.
And she'd just stand there. And then before you know it, you wouldn't even have to put a halter on her or tie her up. She'd just walk to that spot and stand, and you can milk her right there. And she just wouldn't move. She'd just eat. Her name was Honey. I remember that.
Yeah, those are nice ones.
You don't get it seems like with cows, more are that way than not.
Yeah. Goats are too curious for that. You get goats that'll come, they would stand the same way, especially if you had a treat for them or if they had food to eat. But otherwise, they're going to go, what's this over here? What's this over there? They're
hence why their head's always getting stuck in something.
That too, yeah. But they're very easily distracted. Standing out in the pasture and a goose flies over a quarter-mile away, and they're going to be all worried about that. It's like, what's going on over there? I remember one time we saw all the goats were freaked out. They were locked out in the pasture. Couldn't figure out why. Finally figured out, and it had to have been like a couple miles off on the horizon. There was a hot air balloon.
And they were just
they noticed it, and they were all just standing there staring at it like, holy crap.
The world's going to end.
That's not supposed to be there. They do get very scared, goats, if anything above them.
Skittish.
Yeah. Well, pretty much scared. Like we had a sprayer, it was actually a helicopter that was spraying the field next to him, and that ran him through 3 gates one time.
Oof. Well, I suppose when you get 200 goats moving in the same spot as fast as they can.
They, anything above them like that, though, they'll freak them out. Even rain. That's one of the other. That was actually probably one of the other big challenges when we went from cows to goats was, cows rain. They just stood out in the rain. They didn't care at all. Goats think they're gonna die, and it's not gonna kill them. Like they can stand out in the rain all day, but they do not like it.
They do not like it.
No, not at all.
So, do you guys have like a freestyle barn you can all throw them into then at that point?
Yeah, just not really a freestyle barn, but it's just a bedding pack, open shed. So we actually got basically 3 pens that every when I'm a little overcrowded in the summer, like now, they'll fit, but it wouldn't be a real like I've got to downsize a little bit always for winter because they're get a little crowded otherwise when they have to be in all the time.
Mm-hmm. So talk to me about the little guys.
That's probably the hardest part about goats. They're you could expand your herd without ever buying a goat in a horrible hurry if you wanted to, because they breed like rabbits. They, twins and triplets are your most common. Quadruplets, we usually probably have 2 or 3 sets of quadruplets every year, and I don't breed like all my goats, not even close to all of them, because I don't.
Do you AI?
No, you can, but I don't. I never have.
I just was curious.
Yeah, people do, but
yeah.
I think I have 5 bucks right now.
$5 running around there, and they take care of it.
Yep. Just mainly we'll breed like the yearlings when it's time to breed them. We'll breed a whole pen of them, and then otherwise, basically, you see a goat that's in heat that you want to breed, and then I'll drag her out to one of the billy goats and whichever one I want to breed her with.
What's the gestation period of a goat?
5 months.
5 months, and then so your goat, you breed them. 5 months later, they have triplets. Mm-hmm. She has triplets. She goes into milking process right away.
Yep.
And then how long can you milk said goat before you turn around and breed again? You got to wait a month or 2 months and then?
Well, so that's one of the bigger differences also from cows. Goats don't breed all year round.
Oh.
They breed like deer. So they'll start coming in heat in the fall, September, October, and then 5 months from then till your February, March, April, May is when all the kids are born.
Oh, God. So you have a very, very busy April,
Spring.
May.
Yeah. You're trying to plant corn, and you also have 4 goats that just had 12 babies.
And then tomorrow you're going to have 7 goats that have 14 babies. Mm-hmm. Oh, man.
Yeah, so with breeding back, so like I said, I don't breed all of our goats by any means because I don't need the babies. I don't have room for them anyway. So I maybe breed probably 10% of the milking goats is all every year. And then obviously you got all the babies that come in because you only, like, once again with cows, you're basically 2 years old when they calve the first time.
Correct.
Goats are a year. That's plenty old. Usually I try to go a little over a year, but basically a year.
Somewhere in that range.
Yep. And so that goat that had triplets, next year she could have triplets again, plus all 3 of her babies if she had 3 girls, because they could be having kids all the same time. Like you can expand your herd in a hurry if you want to.
In a hurry.
And you can trick them to get bred out of season, which I usually try to do, because it goes by the light of the day, like a lot of things do. That's when days start getting shorter, then they'll come in heat. And there's hormones, or you can actually, if you have a barn set up for it, there's people that will just leave the lights on right to get them to come in heat out of season. And that used to be maybe more prominent than it is now. Actually, like when we first started with the goats, it was not really uncommon for people to just stop milking for 2 months. They just breed everything, stop milking for 2 months, dry everything up, and then have everything start kidding 2 months later and go back to milking again.
Oh, so they would literally just dry them up, stop the milking process while they're kidding, while they're coming.
Just while they're dry, because you're still dry for 2 months roughly.
Gotcha.
2 months before they're going to kid, you dry them up. And so they would, there's a lot of people, there's very few that still do that, but a lot of people used to. They just,
interesting.
Take December and January off. And
the 2 coldest months of the year.
The problem is you still got to pay to feed them for 2 months without getting a milk check.
That milk check, you got to keep that thing coming.
Comes in really handy.
Yeah. So how many kids do you have running around now?
Right now, I've only got...
I should say, they're not even really kids anymore. They're almost... Well, yeah.
Well, yeah. So my last group is just about weaned. The last, I think there's 12 that aren't weaned yet is all. Altogether, how many do we have this year? So all the boys I get rid of right away because I don't have room for them. There's no point in raising them. So they get sold basically as soon as possible. But
do you have a place for that then? Or do you have...
There's just a handful. We've got people that will come and buy them. Usually there's usually 3 or 4 different people get the majority of them. Sometimes, like a couple of years ago, I had one couple from southern Indiana that came and got them all.
Oh, wow.
They'd drive up like basically every weekend, start in Iowa, make a loop through Wisconsin, and go to every place that had goats that wanted to sell them. And they had a truck with a camper shell that was double decked.
Okay.
And then they pulled a little enclosed trailer that was double decked. I think she told me the most they ever got one week was like 270 baby billy goats in one trip.
Hey, if it works.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be them, but So they still come and get some, and then there's a couple local people that'll want, maybe if somebody wants to raise 10 or something, they'll come and get 10.
Yeah, because I know around here there's quite a few people that like goat meat.
Yeah.
So they'll raise them up till they get the slaughter size and then do what they got to do.
But I never actually added them up. I'd say altogether, of just the girls, I probably had 100, 120 babies born this spring.
Wow. So that's half your herd.
Basically.
That you're milking.
Yeah, basically.
Jeez.
And that was out of, like I said, I probably bred 10% of the goats and all the yearlings from last year. And the rest of them, I'll just milk them through. Just never dry them up, never breed them. We've got goats right now that have milked for like 6 years and only kidded one time.
Wow. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean, if they'll keep milking good, then keep them. And
you might as well keep them.
If they slow down too much, then they go to market.
Do you do that with a lot of your with like your little guys and your yearlings then, or do you keep all of them?
I keep all 99% of them. I'll sell one. Like when Kyle stops and wants one. So for a pet, I'll sell a girl here and there.
Oh, well, thanks.
But 90% of them we keep, and then I'll just breed them for usually the next year, and they come in, and if they get a handful here and there that don't turn out good, those will get sent to market. But
and so you have a place that you can send them to market and sell them as milk and goats, and somebody will buy them.
Call goat. Yep.
Call goat.
Regular sale barn.
What's the price of goats right now? Is it good?
On a call goat, it's actually been down. You'd think it'd be good with beef and everything, but well,
that's why
I don't know exactly how it's around. The last ones I sent were actually a little under $1 a pound.
Ooh, yeah, that is.
A couple of years ago, must have been the winter of 2020 or 21. I forget now. They were doing really good. Like it was up over $2. Like
that is really good.
Yeah, it was
$450 for a goat.
Well,
$400 for a goat.
Yeah, $350. Most of them weigh probably about 150 pounds. So, yeah, they were doing really good there for that one. About 6 months, they were just kind of making a guy want to go. How many of these should I keep?
Yeah, because you got to think about all that in the back of your brain too. Mm-hmm. If goat prices are up, maybe you can afford to ship a few extra out and keep that cash flow rolling.
Well,
and still maintain.
And the nice thing is, it's not going to take long to get them back. So.
No, exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. Mm-hmm. So we're going to switch topics here a little bit. So earlier you talked about baleage. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a little bit about that. So when you first started, it was just dry hay.
Yep.
Is it raining out?
Might be.
Sounds like it. Sorry. Just caught me off guard. Now you've switched over to baleage. So what is some of the equipment that you have bought and got that help you with baleage? And why don't you go into a little bit about baleage for people that don't know what baleage is?
Okay. So
you know it better than I do. That's why I'm going to have you explain.
So we started with basically we were just buying it. So I don't remember who it was even. Yeah, you should try this baleage. The leaves will stick on it better because, like I said, when we first started, we were just really upset about the fact that they were not eating leaves, and so we tried some baleage, and which is just wet baled hay. It's essentially haylage that's blown in a silo, except it's just a bale that's wrapped in plastic. And the goats ate it well, and we kind of liked it. So and even actually to this day, I still buy 90% of the baleage that I feed.
You do?
Yes. I bale it, but I also buy it. It's just a good working relationship, so I've kept doing it that way. It's just wet baled hay is all it really is. Nothing super special about it. You can anywhere from probably really 30 to 60% moisture hay. Then wrap each bale in plastic, and then when you're ready to feed it, you cut the plastic open, and you have slices of hay just like you would on a dry bale.
And the reason it's wrapped in hay?
Wrapped in plastic.
Jesus Christ, Kyle. Yes, wrapped in plastic.
To keep the oxygen out so that it ferments instead of spoils.
Instead of rot.
Yep.
Yeah. And so nowadays they have, obviously, I'm sure a lot of people drive down the road and they see what looks like a whole bunch of marshmallows out in the field. Big marshmallows, big white things out there. That is a piece of equipment that will take the bale and wrap it individually, tight.
Yep.
Extremely tight. And then you come around, and I'm assuming you got a grabber of some sort?
Mm-hmm. Yep, just instead of like normally you'd pick up a bale with a bale spear. Obviously, you wrap it in plastic. You don't want to poke the plastic, so it's just a hydraulic squeezer. So just it's smooth round tube. Squeeze the bale, pick them up that way, and that way you don't poke the plastic most of the time.
Yeah, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen.
Big roll of tape also.
Do you have your own wrapper?
No. Like I said, we started out buying baleage. We found people to buy it from. ended up I started baling it for the people we buy it from, and they have a wrapper, so we just
you work with them.
Yeah,
it's a working relationship back and forth.
If I have something of my own, which 95% of the hay that I bale for myself is dry, because it's usually just grass hay for some of the young goats and stuff. So if I have something that I need wrapped, I just call them and have them come wrap it.
Perfect. Perfect. How much hay do you go through a year with your goats?
So, all the bales I feed are 3x3 square bales, 6 feet long, because that's what the wrapper will take.
And what's that weigh about?
Depending on the moisture, the 12 to 1,600 pounds.
Okay.
And then I probably go through 450 bales a year, probably on just the milk.
Oh, that's quite a bit then.
Yeah, it's a fair amount.
Yeah.
I feed about a bale and a third a day, I figure. So
for all of them.
For all the milking goats, yep.
That's quite a bit. That's quite a bit. Do you see the goats milking better on like a first cut in hay or a second cut in hay or a third cut in hay or a fourth cut in hay? Or is it kind of even keel across the board?
I've never noticed too much difference. So all the hay we feed is tested so we take samples and send it to a lab, and it's tested for the protein content and just the relative feed value essentially. And so we can tailor it just off of that. It doesn't really matter which crop it is, because sometimes you have first crop that's 220 relative feed quality, which is just a test score. And then next time you'll have third crop that was, whether the weather was wrong or whatever, that just doesn't test as good. So that's the nice part. That's why I keep buying hay, because I get to bale it all for them, and I also get kind of first pick of whatever I want.
That helps. Well, it's different. It's a different story if somebody's buying hay from said person and they're feeding their horses, or they're feeding, their pet cows in the back, or meat cows even. It's a whole different story. But with you and your milking goats, you kind of want the best hay you can get for them.
They do seem, most people will tell you, goats will eat anything. That's like the most common thing. Goats, you can feed them a tin can. That's like everybody says that, right? And yes, they probably will eat anything if they're hungry enough, but we have found that to milk, they need really good feed. And
cows are the same way.
Yeah,
they milk better. The better feed that you have for them, the more they're going to produce.
Yes. Yep. There's no doubt about that.
It's just like humans, You get to be real fit like me when you eat good food. You know what I mean? Says the guy that got a pooch going on here. Anyway, I forgot where I was going to go with that. Hey, so you obviously you have your own baler then.
Yep.
What do you have for a baler?
I have 2 Krone big square balers.
2 of them. Mm-hmm. Look at you go. Why Krone?
So I started sort of on a whim. I bought a John Deere big square baler, probably, 2000.
That was an old John Deere 100, wasn't it?
John Deere 100, yep. I think it was probably 2013, 14.
I remember that
somewhere
one.
In there. Yeah, it came from Buck Brothers.
Mm-hmm.
It was sort of I saw they had it, and I talked to my dad. I'm like, I think we should go look at that. And he was like, why? What do you want that for? I'm like, well, I don't know. It looks nice, And so we did. I talked him into going to look at it, and we kind of found out it was a super nice baler. So I ended up buying it, and I thought, well, now we got our own baler. We don't have to worry about somebody coming to bale our hay, and just was good. And that baler was an awesome baler for me. A lot of people badmouth them. I think it was an awesome baler. Well, that John Deere 100 baler was built by Krone.
Correct.
So I'm like, well, I like this baler, so I'm going to go buy another one. And I had got into baling the baleage at that point with the John Deere baler, and it worked. Wasn't super great at it, but it worked good.
Well, that old John Deere 100, for those that don't know, it was pretty old technology at that point in time, too.
Yeah.
Because Krone was building them for John Deere, but
Krone was probably building that baler for themselves in like the very early 90s.
You got it. Yeah. That's what I'm saying. It was old technology. Mm-hmm. It was still a good baler, but a lot of people weren't doing baleage and stuff like that in the 90s. It was dry hay all the time. Yep. So guess what? That thing could bale dry hay. Friggin' awesome. I've seen it. I've seen them do it. But then once you started getting into baleage and stuff like that, it's like, ooh.
You had to You had to know what you were doing, I found.
Yeah, I'm sure after the first time you went to do bales with that thing, you're like, what am I doing wrong?
Well, like I said, luckily it was a super nice one that I bought, and it did a good job. But then I was doing enough of that I thought I found a Krone baler actually on auction time. Went and looked at it. We had a lot of bales on it, but I went and ended up buying it. Got a pretty good deal on it, and after having that, I was like, this thing's awesome. You know?
Not that one sucked, but this one's just really awesome.
Yeah, because it was only 5 years newer than my John Deere. So, and then now, 2 years ago, I bought a new one to go with and sold the John Deere. So it's because I ran the two. I ran the Krone and the John Deere for a long time, and then.
So you run them both together then?
Yep.
Get done in a hurry, unless one breaks down or something.
Well, I don't. Fairly rare that they're in the same field. I do enough baling that when the weather's right, everybody cuts hay.
Absolutely.
And then when you tell them, I broke down, which happens. I don't care what you have, it happens.
It's gonna happen.
If you have a spare, they'd be like, well, I'll be back in 20 minutes with the other one. That makes them pretty happy a lot of times.
Give me an hour, I'll be back.
Mm-hmm. Or more often than not, I get my dad to run the one and send him 10 miles one direction while I go 15 miles the other direction. And
So you do quite a bit of custom baling then I'm assuming too.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
Way more than I ever imagined. Like I said, I kind of bought that original baler on a whim and thought, if somebody needs some baling done, I'll do a little bit or something. No big deal. This thing will last me forever.
It did.
It did. I put just about, I think it was 18. I think I put 18,000 bales through the John Deere.
Wow, that's quite a bit.
And and like I said, I thought maybe I'd put that many in it. And when I was 50 years old, I'd maybe think about updating. But then it just worked out that one person called and said, "Hey, come bale," and then 2 people and 3 and 4, and now I go like 25 miles in every direction. So
good for you. I mean, that's pretty cool though. I mean, you got the equipment, you might as well use it.
Mm-hmm.
So whether it's for yourself or for somebody else, it helps pay every bill that you got going on the farm.
Yep.
Breakdowns, equipment costs.
Well, part of the deal, like I had said, is I get a first choice on any hay that I want from the one guy that I bale for, and that works out really good for the goats.
Yeah, because you can take that then 100%. 100% agree with that.
I can be halfway through the field, and I call them and be like, take that to my house.
So, I mean, you guys still farm, you still grain farm some too,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yep, a little bit.
So, I know, you still got that? Oh, no. What combine you guys got?
9400.
You still got the 9400?
Yep.
Those are good combines. Those are great combines.
Yeah, it's been awesome as long as we've had it. So,
You guys have had that a while.
We bought that in 2010, I believe. So
Yeah, it was a low-hour machine, if I remember right, when you guys
we
bought
had
it.
like 1100.
Yeah.
When we bought it.
I was like, what? I said you'd be happy with it, though, too.
Yeah, it's been awesome. I mean, we had a 4400 before that, and I mean that was a good combine too, and it wasn't even wore out; it was just little. The 13-foot head combine and beans got really old. A couple times when you had to combine beans one way because they were laying down.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't love that. I did actually really like that combine. It was the first combine I ever ran, but 13 feet at a time takes forever to get across the field.
And that's the thing. It's when you're milking like you are, time really is money.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be able to knock this stuff out in a time, because come this evening, you're going to have to milk goats again. And when you get done milking goats, you get back out to the field, you go, I got to milk goats again in 10 hours. Mm-hmm. And I got to sleep, I got to shower, I got to clean the house. Maybe the girlfriend's coming over to watch a movie, whatever. You need to have time efficiency to be able to get that done, so you can move on to the next project.
It definitely helps. I mean, if you don't we don't farm that many acres anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Mm-hmm. But just having good equipment has always been nice.
Yeah, I can 100% agree with that.
When you can go, it's nice not to have to work on it.
What do you got anybody that helps you out at the farm?
My mom and dad still help. So I took over from, we started together, but I worked actually a town job for a long time. And then I took over fully on the goat part of the farm end of 2020. And So then I've got my mom and dad still help a lot. Obviously, that's my cheapest help. And so I try to keep them very happy if I can. And then I've got a couple of high school kids and another lady that come and help milk. So I mean, we still have to be there, but they're very good help too. So
that's huge.
Well, it's nice. Just it allows everybody doesn't have to be there. You know, like if somebody's coming, Dad doesn't have to be at the barn when we start milking. He can go do whatever he wants to do, and if he comes and helps, great. If he doesn't, sometimes he gets bored. He comes and helps. Other times who knows what he's doing. You know, he doesn't have to.
Right.
If it wasn't for them, then you're like, I kind of need you.
Yeah. And they just help on the milking part of it then?
Yeah, pretty much. A little bit with feeding, but mostly with milking.
Well, it's good to have them there too, because if all of a sudden you get a goat that comes in, I know we're getting back to milking goats here, but when a goat comes in, all of a sudden you go, this goat's not feeling well. So why don't you guys, you girls, whoever, take care of the milkers. I'm going to concentrate on this goat because you're going to have an eye for that.
Yeah, a little bit, yeah. And goats are, actually that was one thing I didn't touch on with the goats. They're super healthy compared to cows.
No kidding.
Very rare that if you do have a sick goat, it's like for a day.
And they're over it and moving on.
Yeah, usually they're either over it or they're dead.
Well, I was always told if you're going to have livestock, you're going to have dead stock.
But yeah, they don't mess around. If you have a sick goat, you treat it. It's fine tomorrow or dead tomorrow.
Are they big on mastitis? Do they have a lot of mastitis issues and things
very
like
little,
that?
Very, very little. I bet all the years we've been milking goats now, we've maybe had like 5 goats with mastitis.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's kind of nice.
That's actually kind of surprising. Mm-hmm. I thought it would be the other way around for some reason.
No, they tend to stay a little cleaner. That might help with the mastitis. Goats aren't going to go lay in a mud hole unless it's like the last couple of days. You might find one that will when it's super hot and humid. But otherwise, no.
They stay out of that.
Yep, they're going to pick the dry spot to lay, and that helps them a lot.
Well, yeah, that's where a lot of mastitis in cows comes from. Is they just really don't give a shit, so they're going to go lay where they're comfortable, and that's just it. Whether it's in a mud hole underneath a tree up on top of the friggin' hill, they're going to lay there because that's what's comfortable.
Yep.
I did not know that about goats. So your vet bill was dropped dramatically from going from cows to goats.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, more or less the only thing we have to. I mean, you'll have a handful of goats that, like milking goats, you'll have to treat that are just under the weather for whatever reason. Mm-hmm. But otherwise, pretty much it's just the babies. Like when you're feeding on milk, they'll get some respiratory issues and stuff through the babies sometimes. But that's where 99% of the vet bill goes to.
And that's not something that you can take care of. You really got to call the vet to come out and take care of that. Or
I say the vet bill, it's just medication.
Medication. Yeah. So you've gotten to treat them all. You know. Yeah. You know what they all take, what they all need, when one's coughing or whatever.
Well, it's hard to call. Like we have really good vets. But
we do.
It's really hard to call a vet for a $250 service charge on a $30 baby goat.
Yeah, I get it.
So
I get it.
You learn how to treat them yourself, and it's not usually too hard. So
that's it's very interesting. I like I said, I would have thought it would have been the opposite way. So, I wouldn't have thunk about that. I was going to go somewhere. My brain's not working today. Sorry.
We had started talking about combine and stuff and grain.
Yeah, grain. So do you sell all your grain then to the local granary then, or?
Yep.
You don't keep none of it for the animals?
No, just like
just the hay.
Well, yeah, hay. But for us, grain crops, I'll go to the elevator because, like I said, we can't really grind corn because they don't eat like the fines. So it just goes to town.
I gotcha. Are you still conventional tillage?
Yep.
What are you using for fertilizer, nitrogen, things like that? Is goat shit good fertilizer?
Yeah, I think it's very comparable to regular like common manure. I guess I've never seen a test that shows the difference, but it seems to be about the same.
A lot less of it.
Yeah. The funny thing is there is a lot less, but it doesn't seem like it. It seems like we haul a lot of manure. For little animals, they do crap a lot. Seems like it anyway.
I'll take your word. Do you use straw then for bedding?
Yep, usually soybean straw.
Soybean straw? Mm-hmm. So after you harvest the soybeans, then you
Bale the straw, yep.
You bale the straw. The
Yep, bale the straw, bed them all winter, haul it back out, and chisel paw it in usually.
Wheat straw?
Nope, just soybean.
Just soybean straw.
We'd use wheat if we grew wheat, but we really don't ever. So, I mean, last time we grew wheat was a long time ago.
So you grow enough soybeans then to have enough bedding then for...
Yeah. I mean, if I make, unless it's an abnormal year, if I make 150 big square bales, that'll get us through for bedding.
No kidding.
Yep.
That's cheap bedding then.
Yeah.
I mean, you already got the product out there. You already take the good stuff off of it. And now you're just using the junk stuff.
Yep.
To
I mean, wheat straw would be a little nicer just because it's not as dusty.
Correct. We
We run it all through a bale processor and works pretty good.
And
I do bale a little bit of corn stalks usually too, just because.
Just in case.
Yeah. I mean, we don't bale all of our beans either. Just, I don't know. So I guess sometimes it's nice to have a variety. So if the weather's right, we'll do 20, 30 corn stalks for the fun of it.
Make sure that baler's still working the right way.
Yeah. Corn stalks are hard on big square balers.
I can believe that.
A lot of dirt.
Yeah. Round balers would probably be better for corn stalks. I can imagine. We see quite a bit of that around here.
A lot of people won't run corn stalks through their round balers either, though.
You're right. They won't.
It's hard on them too.
It's funny because it's like if you have a real short wheat, and all of a sudden people are baling their wheat and they're like, they pick their wheat and they're going to bale the straw and they're like, man, there's not a lot out here. That's when you see people start round baling their corn stalks because they're going to run out of bedding.
Yep.
But this year,
shouldn't be a problem this year.
No, I think that wheat yield was tremendous.
I heard some really higher numbers than I've ever heard before.
Me too. This podcast episode is sponsored by Dan's Diesel Performance. If you're looking to improve your truck's performance, efficiency, or appearance, check out Dan's Diesel Performance. They manufacture turbochargers, fuel injectors, fuel pumps, transmissions, intake piping, and much, much more. Plus, they offer all the top brands in the diesel industry. They're located in Machesney Park, Illinois. Visit their website at dansdieselperformance.com or give them a call at 815-977-5865.
And for a wet year, normally wheat doesn't like a wet year.
I guess it just depends on how fast that water can get away, really.
True.
If it can drain away quick enough, I think they say rain makes grain. So we've had a lot of rain this year, and then if the water could get away, I still think you're gonna. I think we're gonna have a bumper crop all the way around.
Everything looks really good.
Everything looks phenomenal, and
except for the price.
Well, it's because everything looks good.
Yeah. Exactly.
So, but at the end of the day, even if it drops, 30, 40 cents, and your bushel's 30 or 40 bushel higher than normal,
true,
it's gonna average out.
Somewhat, yeah.
But man, there's a lot of wheat growing just over east of here, and I drove by that field one day, and I'm like, well, they only round baled half the field, and I count like 600 round bales out here. I'm like, holy cow!
They must have cut that pretty low too.
It's funny because they were cutting it low, and then all of a sudden they cut it high. Like, okay, we've got enough for now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I ran into that with a couple of guys that I bail for that they're always trying to guess like how many bales. They'll call me and be like, how many bales do you normally get behind wheat? But I'm like, it varies so much. Depends how they cut it, depends on the year. I'll be like, I don't know, somewhere between 4 and 10 bales an acre.
Yeah. And you're right. Every combine operator is different. Some are going to shave that ground if they want the straw.
Well, and even just depending on what kind of combine you have makes a big difference on how many bales you'll have too.
Yeah, absolutely. It just seems like most grain farmers now have pretty decent combines.
True, you don't. I still bailed behind at least I think 2 Walker combines this year, so that's getting rare.
That's getting rare, and really, I think platforms in general, augers are a thing of the past.
Eventually, they're going to be.
These drapers are unbelievable.
They don't make it 20 foot yet.
Yet was the key word, Brad.
Well, they make a 20-foot rigid. I know I found one of those once.
Yeah.
But because even I have been looking for one of those.
That might be tough on that old combine, though.
Yeah. Those engines will make a lot of power if you want.
That's not the engine I'm really worried about. It's that thing in the front that spins.
The weight?
Well, the weight's one.
Weight would be one.
Your variable speed will be the other.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. True.
Yeah, your variable speed might not like that.
They're rebuildable.
They are. And they have heavy-duty ones for those, too, I think. So you should be in good shape there. But
Be the only person running a 30-foot Draper and a 12-row on a 94.
it'd be fun to see.
It would be fun.
If that happens.
I'm pretty sure you'd have to.
I'm going to be stopping by, taking video, or jumping in the cab with you.
A lot of challenges with that.
There would be a lot of challenges with that. I don't think you'd lift a I don't think you'd lift a 12-row.
I've been trying to figure out if I could lift an 8-row. So
I think you could lift an 8-row.
It'd be handy. It'd match our corn planter.
I think you can lift an 8-row with that. You might have to
fill the back tires
or do something. Yeah, maybe a little weight bracket in the back, to keep it down. But don't stop suddenly when you're moving forward. I can tell you that,
especially with a full grain tank.
Oh, them poor diffs.
Yeah, that would. I don't know. It's fun to think about what it could be up to.
Yeah.
It's more fun to think about it than pay for it.
Than actually doing it. No, I get that. 100%. Well, cool, man. Well, thanks for coming over. Anything else you want to touch base on?
I think you pretty well covered it.
Yeah. We hit the basics on everything anyway.
Yeah.
I learned something. I know that. Like goats are resilient little creatures.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool. Well, Brad, thanks for taking time. Thanks for coming over, shooting the shit.
Had a lot of fun.
Me too. We'll have to do this again.
Sounds good.
All right, Brad. Talk to you.